Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast Special Edition Show, 2021 MLB Season Predictions Show. I forgot to promote this on my podcast from earlier today. I apologize about that. So, this is how it's going to work. Standings, individual awards, best rookies, non-rookie breakouts, flop players, make or break players, bounce back players, all-stars, and a bold prediction for every team with a couple miscellaneous season predictions at the end. So, without further ado, here we go. We're going to start with the American League East. In first place, I have finishing with a record of 97-65. The New York Yankees, they are huge favorites to win this division. They have the best roster in the division, arguably the best rotation in the division. Easily the best bullpen in the division, the best offense in the division. That all adds up to the best team. Aaron Judge, DJ LeMahieu, Gleyber Torres, Gary Sanchez, Giancarlo Stanton form a great offense. Luke Voigt's out to start the year. That's a big loss. Rotation, Garrett Cole. He's the ace of the staff, the best pitcher in baseball. You have Jameson Taillon and Corey Kluber, two guys that they added in the offseason that they're banking on to regain their past form. And then rounding out the end of the rotation, you have Domingo Germán, who was great in spring training and was good a couple years ago before that suspension. And Jordan Montgomery, who is a steady back-end rotation guy that can provide some good innings. Bullpen, one of the best in the game, led by Aroldis Chapman. Zach Britton's out to start the year. That's a loss. Justin Wilson's a new addition. He's out to start the year due to an injury. Chad Green's still there. That guy is a horse. Hot and cold horse, I should say. Maybe they could potentially add somebody at the deadline if they want to. They got rid of Adam Ottavino, who wasn't good last year. So I have the Yankees winning that division. Second place, I have the Tampa Bay Rays at 90-72. The American League champs from a year ago, I think they take a little bit of a step back due to the departures of Blake Snell and Charlie Morton in that rotation. They lose Nick Anderson to start the year due to injury. That's a big loss for them. Offensively, this is a not horrible group, but not a great group either. Austin Meadows, they're expecting to have a better season. A couple other guys, they're banking on Randy Arozarena. Can he repeat that postseason performance? Wander Franco, could he get called up? A lot of questions with the Rays offensively. Mike Zunino is somebody that's a feast or famine behind the plate. In third place with a record of 78-84, the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm not a fan of this Blue Jays team as others are. George Springer's out to start the season due to a grade 2 strain. They'll miss that bat. Bo Bichette's a rising star. So is Vlad Guerrero Jr., so is Cavan Biggio. Lourdes Gurriel Jr., that pretty much rounds up their core. Rowdy Tellez isn't bad. Their rotation, to me, is the reason why I don't think this season's going to go particularly well in Toronto. Hyunjin Ryu, can he repeat last year? Nate Pearson's hurt to start the year. Robbie Ray and Steven Matz are really banking on this live up to potential here at Toronto. And they lose Kirby Yates, their closer for the season, due to Tommy John. In fourth place, I have the Boston Red Sox at 72-90. Nothing's changed from last year. And we're like, oh, the Red Sox, Alex Cora's back. Alex Cora is a good manager, but this is pretty much the same roster as last year, with the exception of a couple of role players. Chris Sale's still out. Nathan Eovaldi's feast or famine. Eduardo Rodriguez is out to start the year. So they're in bad shape rotation-wise. Their bullpen's a mess. Either Adam Ottavino or Matt Barnes will be their closer, probably Ottavino. Their offense will rake. They'll score runs. JD Martinez, I expect to have a good season. Xander Bogaerts. Rafael Devers. Michael Chavez. Bobby Dalbec. I think there's a chance Jeter Downs gets called up in the season too. So, the Red Sox, not the Red Sox from 2-3 years ago, and they were winning the World Series. And in the cellar of the Orioles at 69 and 93, I think you'll see some improvement from the Orioles this season, but the record won't show it. Adley Rutschman could be up at some point. Ryan Mountcastle, someone I expect to have a good season. Dean Kremer, I like in their rotation. Matt Harvey and Felix Hernandez, they're banking on turning back the clock to turn them into trade assets. Maybe that could be the case with one of those guys. Trey Mancini, great story. He's back from battling cancer. I expect him to get a nice ovation at Camden Yards when they start the season. So, Orioles, bright future, but not there yet. The American League Central, in first place with a record of 94 and 68, the Chicago White Sox. I considered them having a better record than this, but the loss of Eloy Jimenez will hurt them the first couple months of the season. They also have Luis Robert. They have Yohan Moncada, who they're begging on to have a better season. Same with Yasmani Grandal behind the plate. Jose Abreu was a reigning AL MVP. They have a lot of youngsters in their lineup other than Roberts. Nick Madrigal, they're banking on, and Andrew Vaughn replacing Eloy Jimenez in the outfield. I think that if some of those young guys can't produce and some other guys are underachieving, I won't be surprised if they go out and make a trade to make that offense better at the deadline because they have the assets to do it. The wild card to me for this team is Michael Kopech and whether he can live up to the hype or not coming off that injury. Dylan Cease and Carlos Rodon are two young guys they're begging on as well. And then obviously you have the veterans in Keuchel and Lynn. And then you have Lucas Giolito as your ace of the staff. In second place, I have the Minnesota Twins at 91 and 71. The Twins are a good team. They've been a playoff contender the last couple of years. Good manager in Rocco Baldelli. Nice core, Maxi Kepler, Juan Soto, Miguel Sano, Byron Buxton. I'm not completely sure about him. They thought he was going to be like their Mike Trout. He's not even close to that. So it's going to be interesting to see how it works out with Minnesota. We talked about their offense. Their pitching, to me, has to be better. Jose Barrios has to be better. Kenta Maeda is a good pitcher. I think they need to make a trade for somebody because I'm not convinced that Jay Happ and Matt Shoemaker are the answers in the back end of the rotation. Michael Pineda has some upside, but I'm not a fan. Alex Colomé and Taylor Rogers is a good duo in the back end of the bullpen as well. Number 3, the Cleveland Indians, 75 and 87. This is not the Indians of the last couple of years. Francisco Lindor is gone. They did not get a lot back for him. Carlos Carrasco's gone as well. Their rotation is solid with Shane Bieber, Zach Plesac, and Tristan McKenzie in their top 3. They like Logan Allen. They like Cal Quantrill, too. They got them in trades. Their offense will take a step back without Lindor and Carlos Santana there. Jose Ramirez could be traded. We'll see about that. And then their bullpen, James Karinchak's a good young closer that they got there. 4, the Kansas City Royals, 70 and 92. They'll be better, but the record won't indicate it. I like Brady Singer in that rotation. Brett Keller's a steady guy. And then some veterans in the back end. Danny Duffy. And banking on the other vet they have in their rotation. Greg Collins, now their closer. He's back with the Royals. Maybe he'll be a little rejuvenated. Maybe he's a trade asset for them. Jorge Soler, I think, could bounce back for them. Adalberto Mondesi could big year for him, I think. Hunter Dozier's a good player. And in the cellar at 66 and 96 to the Detroit Tigers. Their time will be here within the next 3, 4, maybe 5 years, but not now. This is still a last place team in my opinion. Casey Mize, I think, will provide some life for them as a good young starter. Matt Boyd could be trade bait. Offensively, I think they're the worst in the American League for sure. One of the worst two in baseball. Jeimer Candelario is not the player that they expect him to be yet. Miguel Cabrera's getting old. They have some good trade assets in their lineup if they choose to trade some veterans. AL West, in first place, I have with the record of 90-72, the Oakland Athletics. I think the AL West is weaker than the past couple seasons due to some injuries and whatnot. The A's, to me, have a lot of talent in their lineup and on the pitching staff. I think this team continues to get underestimated. They have a great manager in Bob Melvin. I love their corner infield of Matt Chapman and Matt Olson. They're stars. The young catcher Sean Murphy can make a jump. They're going to miss Marcus Semien, but maybe they'll make a trade for somebody at the deadline. Ramon Laureano is a good player in the outfield as well. Second place. Oh, wait. Before I get into my second place team, I forgot to talk about the A's rotation. Sean Manaea is an ace. Frankie Montas is really good. They're banking on some other young guys to jump as well. Jesus Luzardo among them. And their bullpen will take a step back after the loss of Liam Hendricks, but they got a good replacement in him and Trevor Rosenthal. Now second place. 84-78, the Houston Astros. No Justin Verlander is a huge deal. Many people think that this is the favorite in this division. I disagree. I think that they were lucky to get to the ALCS last year because Oakland, for some reason, did not show up for the ALDS. And the Twins, to me, just weren't ready for primetime yet, and the Astros experience pushed them over the hump in that series. But no Justin Verlander, maybe for the whole year. Zach Greinke's supposed to be their ace. I don't think he is as good as he used to be. No George Springer anymore. Carlos Correa in the contract year. That could be a distraction. Jose Altuve's still great. Alex Bregman's still great. But there's holes on this roster. They have a good closer in Ryan Presley, but I don't think this is the same team as years past. Third, and I have with a record of 75-87, Seattle Mariners. This is one of my surprising predictions of the season. Seattle finishing in third. They have a great up-and-coming young core. Jared Kalenic could be up at some point this season. Kyle Lewis is a solid player. Could be an all-star. Kyle Seager's still there. Evan White's a good young first baseman. Dylan Moore is a promising young piece. Mitch Haniger's back. And then on the pitching side of things, there's some promise too. I like Justin Dunn. Justice Sheffield, to me, has a lot to prove. James Paxton's back on this team. So it's going to be interesting to see how they play out. And then their bullpen is just a mess. Fourth place, I have the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim at 74-88. Yet another disappointing season for Mike Trout and the Angels. Mike Trout will be awesome. He won't be a disappointment. I don't think Shohei Ohtani's going to disappoint either. I don't think Anthony Rendon's going to disappoint. But the rest of that lineup outside of the big three, I don't think is that great. Justin Upton's past his prime. They're banking on some breakout guys. Jared Walsh. Need to see it to believe it from him. They have holes in that lineup too. Joe Adele may not be ready yet for prime time. Their pitching staff's a mess. Dylan Bundy starting on opening day. Like, what the heck? And their bullpen's not good either. So I think they're going to be among one of the more disappointing teams this year. And in the cellar, in the AL West, the record is 67-95, the Texas Rangers. I don't like the Rangers this year. They got rid of Rougned Odor. I think that was a bad decision, but I understand why they did it because of the emergence of Nick Solak and the lack of performance of Rougned Odor. I think Rougned Odor could be salvageable somewhere else, and it could come back to haunt the Rangers a little bit. Willie Calhoun, they're banking on having a big year from. Chris Davis, can he bounce back once he comes back from his injury? That's something that has to be answered for the Rangers. Their rotation takes a step back after the training of Lance Lynn. Mike Minor's not there anymore. He's with the Royals. That was the other veteran that's in the Royals rotation I was thinking of. Dane Dunning, they got in the Lynn trade. They're banking on him to make a jump. Their bullpen's not very good. They lost their closer for the season, which is a bad loss for them. So they're going to be battling for the worst record in the American League this season. On to the National League side of things. The National League East in first place, I have at the record of 96 and 66, the Atlanta Braves. I think the Braves are awesome. Brian Snitker, I think, is one of the more underrated managers in all of baseball. He doesn't get the credit he deserves. A lot of talent. Ronald Acuna Jr., Freddie Freeman, Marcell Ozuna's back. Austin Riley, I think, could have a breakout season. Ozzie Albies, Dansby Swanson. This is a really loaded team. And then, obviously, Christian Pache, they're banking on having a good rookie season. Their rotation is going to be very deep once Mike Soroka comes back. I love Ian Anderson. Max Fried had a great year last year. Nice signing of Charlie Morton. He's going to be in the back end of their rotation. I think he'll have a better year than last year. And their bullpen is very good, and I think they can make a trade to upgrade their bullpen to make it even stronger. Second place, I have the record of 91 and 71. The Washington Nationals, yes. The Nationals I have in second place. I think this is the most slept-on team coming into the season. They've made several good additions. Josh Bell and Kyle Schwarber on offense, and they'll have those who join up with Juan Soto in that offense. So that unit's better. Carter Keyboom, will he have a role? Could he be traded potentially? Will the Nationals make a trade to improve their offense? That could be in play, I think, with this prediction as well. We shall see. Their rotation's still loaded, led by Max Scherzer, Steven Strasburg, Patrick Corbin, and new addition John Lester. And their bullpen, I think, had a solid addition with Brad Hand. I think Brad Hand's going to return back to form with the Nationals. So I think that was a good pickup as well. Third place with the record of 87 and 75, the New York Mets. This Mets team should be pretty good. But there's going to be a good team in the National League that's left out of the playoffs, and I think it could very well be the Mets. Carlos Carrasco's hurt to start the season, so their rotation behind Jacob deGrom at the moment is thin. Taijuan Walker's a back-end guy, so is Joey Lucchesi. When's Marcus Stroman going to be back? When is Noah Syndergaard going to be back? And obviously Carrasco. So those three injuries are huge for the Mets. I think that can set them back. I think their offense is going to be one of the best in the National League. Potentially top 5 offense in all of baseball, led by Peter Alonso and Francisco Lindor. Jeff McNeil's a good player. Michael Conforto's a very good player. James McCann's an upgrade at catcher, so this offense should be able to mash. Their bullpen, to me, still has some questions, although they did make some upgrades in that pen as well. The National League Central we'll get to eventually. I have 2 more teams to talk about in the East. In fourth place in that division, 78 and 84, the Philadelphia Phillies. I'm not sold on this Phillies team. A lot of people like this team a lot. They have the upside with some star players, but I just think that their downside could be really, really bad, considering what their expectations are. They have a good manager in Joe Girardi. Bryce Harper's still Bryce Harper. Alec Boehm's going to be a star in that lineup. JT Realmuto's back. Andrew McCutcheon's a good player still. But they have holes in that lineup, to me, that can hold them back a little bit. Their pitching staff's really good, led by Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler. Zach Eflin's someone that they're banking on to be better. Maybe Spencer Howard's up at some point. And in their bullpen, obviously, Brandon Workman and Heath Henry from Boston are with the team for a full season now. And Hector Neris is a solid closer, so their bullpen should be a little bit better. But I think their issue is the back end of that rotation and then the underbelly of the bullpen. And in the basement at 74 and 88, the Miami Marlins. The Miami Marlins will be better than this record because their division is just so good. And if they were in any other division, I would not pick them to finish in last. This is the best last place team in the league, I think. Don Mattingly's a really good manager, reigning National League Manager of the Year, and rightfully so. Getting a lot out of that team last year. Starting Martinez there, maybe he's traded at the deadline. He's in a contract year. Brian Anderson's a good utility player. Jorge Alfaro, they're banking on to get better. And then they have some young guys like Jazz Chisholm, who I really like. Monte Harrison. Will Lewis Brinson finally break through on that team? Their rotation's pretty good. Sixto Sanchez is a star in the making. Sandy Alcantara's good. Pablo Lopez is solid. So that's a good top three right there. So yeah, Miami should be an interesting team. I don't like their bullpen though. That's what I think will hold them back, if anything holds them back. But I like the direction of this franchise, but this is not the team that we saw last year. The National League Central, first place with a record of 90-72, the St. Louis Cardinals. I think this is the worst division in baseball because the worst team in baseball is in this division. That's a big reason why. But I think the Cardinals are going to win this division. They upgrade their lineup in a big way by acquiring Nolan Arenado from Colorado. They have him and Paul Goldschmidt. That's the best corner infield in the majors. Colton Wong's gone, but I don't think they'll miss him because of Arenado's presence. Will Matt Carpenter bounce back? Obviously, he's back at second base for them. Paul DeYoung's a good shortstop. Their outfield, Dylan Carlson, will he break through as a rookie? Tyler O'Neill, will he make that next step? I'm not a Harrison Bader fan. To me, he's more of like a fourth outfielder type. Their starting rotation has a chance to be really good, but also has disaster potential because of injuries and age. I love Jack Flaherty. He's a star. Adam Wainwright, will he be good? Or is he washed up? Miles Mikolas, he's injured right now. How will he look? Alex Reyes, where does he belong? In the bullpen or in the rotation? Andrew Miller, will he be back to form, or is this who he is now? So the Cardinals have a lot of questions, and then they have some injuries on their pitching staff, which I think could hurt them early on. In second place with a record of 77-85, the Cincinnati Reds. Like I said, this is the worst division in the league. I don't like this Reds team at all. I was high on them last year. I had them in the World Series in my postseason predictions, but in my preseason predictions before the short season last year, I had them, I believe, losing in the NLCS to the Dodgers. But I know I definitely had them winning the Central last year, but it's so much could just happen in a year. They lose Trevor Bauer, Luis Castillo, Sonny Gray, are they trade bait guys? Maybe. Tyler Mahle, they're banking on making a jump. Offensively, Nicholas Castellanos, Mike Moustakas, Eugenio Suarez. That's a good trio. Jonathan India, will he be up? Tyler Stevenson at catcher, will he break through as a rookie? And their bullpen loses Horacio Iglesias, so it gets worse. Amir Garrett's a good reliever. David Hernandez isn't that bad either. In third place with a record of 75-87, the Chicago Cubs, and that'd be a very huge disappointment in year two for David Ross behind the bench. They lost in the first round to the Marlins last year, which was really bad. I think they won the division last year, if I'm not mistaken, the Cubs. Either them or the Cardinals won that division. It was them. It had to have been the Cubs. Because they got swept at Wrigley Field by the Marlins. In that weird 16-team playoff format. But yeah, the Cubs are taking a step back. They lose John Lester. Kyle Hendricks is still there. Zach Davies is being relied on as a middle guy for them. I think he'll be good, but not great. Jake Arrieta's back on the team, but he's not the Jake Arrieta from 2016. The back end of the rotation is not that great. Edward Alzolay, they're banking on having a good season. Offensively, Chris Bryant, trade rumors galore. Same for pretty much that entire core. Anthony Rizzo called off a contract extension, so that's pretty messy. Jason Hayward, among the worst contracts in baseball. Craig Kimbrell, another bad contract. I don't think he's the same pitcher as he was with the Braves and a little bit there with the Red Sox. Number 4, the Milwaukee Brewers, 70-92. This team, I think, is among the most overrated teams in all of baseball. They have holes in their lineup. Christian Yelich is awesome. Lorenzo Cain's back, I know. Keston Hiura is good. But Travis Shaw, Orlando Arcia, to me, aren't really great players. Arcia is one of those prospect busts. Shaw really only had one good year in the majors. The year he had 30 homers. And I liked him with Boston, too, amazingly enough. But I just overrated him as a player. Starting rotation, they're banking on Brendan Woodruff and Corbin Burns to be guys. The back end of their rotation stinks. Josh Hader can be trade bait. Devin Williams, I don't think he'll repeat his NL Rookie of the Year performance from last year. And in the cellar, no doubt about it, the Pittsburgh Pirates, 57-105 is my record for them. This team is terrible. Brian Hayes will be fun. He'll be in play for the National League Rookie of the Year. Maybe they'll call up some other guys to get that fan base excited a little bit. Mitch Keller, to me, it could be another prospect that just flames out completely and it isn't what people thought. Or maybe he's Lucas Giolito and turns himself into a good pitcher after all. You never know. So, yeah, that team's atrocious. They're going to be trading players away at the deadline. I think Polanco's among them. Jacob Stallings had a career year last year. I don't think he's going to be that good. My goodness, that team's a mess. The National League West. In first place with a record of 98-64, the Los Angeles Dodgers. No doubt about it, this is the best team in baseball. They'll finish with the best record in baseball. We'll have the home field advantage throughout the playoffs. They have the best duo in baseball in Mookie Betts and Cody Bellinger. They're the best top 3 in rotation in baseball with Walker Buehler, Clayton Kershaw, and Trevor Bauer. Julio Urias and Dustin May round out that rotation. Amazingly enough, David Price at the moment is not in their rotation. That's absurd to me. Or maybe they have like a trade for him or something. If anything, if I'm the Dodgers, I would put Price in the rotation and make Urias a reliever out of the bullpen. Or you trade Urias or May and get that elite stud reliever to potentially replace Kenley Jansen down the road. Because I don't think Kenley Jansen's as good as he once was personally. And obviously the rest of their lineup's loaded. Max Muncy, Justin Turner, who's back with the Dodgers. AJ Pollock was solid in the playoffs for them last year, although he has a bad contract. Pedro Baez is gone. That guy was on the Dodgers forever. I think they might actually miss him because I don't think their bullpen's really that good. Blake Trinan. There's some other guys. Tommy Kahnle, they signed in the offseason, but he had Tommy John. Number 2, the San Diego Padres, 95-67. I think the Padres are awesome. I think that them and the Dodgers will battle it out all year long. Fernando Tatis Jr. is the top 10 player in all of baseball. Manny Machado, I think, is one of the forgotten stars in this game now. People just write him off because long contract. They're saying he's like Stanton in terms of forgotten player that has a bad contract, and arguably Bryce Harper's in that conversation too. But those 3 players, I think, are all forgotten players, and I think Machado is arguably the best of the 3 at the moment, or the most reliable of the 3 from a health standpoint. And Jake Cronenworth's coming off a breakout year. Eric Hosmer's coming off a good year. Will Myers had a good year for them last year. Danielson Lamet. Will Chris Paddock bounce back in that rotation as well? And then they add Yu Darvish, Blake Snell, and Joe Musgrove in that rotation. So they have an elite rotation. Mike Clevenger's still there, but he's coming off of Tommy John. We won't see him this year. They have Drew Pomeranz as their closer. That's going to be interesting. They also have some other good bullpen guys as well. In third place with a record of 77-85, the Arizona Diamondbacks. This can go either way. I think that this could be a mediocre season like this. A potential team in the mid-80s that could surprise, or a team in the low 70s that could be a massive disappointment, like I think about Milwaukee or even Boston, for that matter, in the American League. But I don't think the Diamondbacks are that bad. They have some solid players. I love Ketel Marte, most underrated star player in all of baseball in my mind. Carson Kelly's not a bad catcher. Christian Walker's not bad at first. They have some infielders that I think that they could potentially trade in: Eduardo Escobar, Nick Ahmed. Cole Calhoun, someone I think could be traded too if he has a good season, but he's starting the year on the IL. Pavin Smith's supposed to be starting for them in right field, amazingly enough, the former first-round pick. Dalton Varsho, will you see some playing time this year? Pitching-wise, I think Madison Bumgarner's poised for a good season, or a better season, I should say. I love Zach Gallen. He's a star in the making, if he isn't already. Taylor Widener's getting a crack in that rotation. Will John DePlainter see time, whether that's as a starter or a reliever? Luke Weaver, Merrill Kelly are guys that they're relying on this season. Number 4, the San Francisco Giants, 70-92. Things are getting better for the Giants, but not quite yet. I would project them to be better, but I think that the 3 teams I spoke about are better than them. To me, the issue for San Francisco is their pitching staff. Johnny Cueto's their highest paid starter. He's not Johnny Cueto from his days with the Reds and with the Royals in his early Giants years. That's one of the worst contracts in baseball. If he's good, maybe they'll trade him. Logan Webb, they're banking on having a breakout year in their rotation. They have decent bullpen arms, though. That I think that they could flip at the deadline, including their closer, Jake McGee. Kevin Gossman's supposed to be their opening day starter. Will Joey Bart see some playing time behind the plate? Buster Posey, Brandon Belt, Brandon Crawford. That core is pretty much still intact. Those 3 guys offensively are still there. Mauricio Dubon, they're banking on him to break out. A couple veterans I think could be moved at the deadline too. In Tommy LaSalle and Donovan Solano. Mike Yastrzemski's awesome, by the way. And in the cellar, 63-99, the Colorado Rockies. They're a train wreck at this point. Nolan Arenado's gone. Trevor Story and Charlie Blackmon are good players. Maybe they're out the door next. They're banking on Ryan McMahon, Colton Welker, and Brendan Rodgers to have good seasons. Garrett Hampton, another one. Their rotation is not good. John Gray, somebody they're expecting good things from. Cal Freeland, too. Same for Herman Marquez. Those are their perceived best 3 starters. Austin Gomber, they're banking on having a good season. He was the key piece in the Nolan Arenado deal. And their bullpen is just atrocious. And their closer is actually going to be Daniel Bard. And Chichi Gonzalez is in that rotation. He's terrible. Alrighty. Wild card teams. My first wild card in the American League is the Minnesota Twins. And my second wild card in the American League is the Tampa Bay Rays. My first wild card in the National League is the San Diego Padres. My second wild card in the National League is the Washington Nationals. American League wild card game, I have the Twins hosting the Rays. I think you'll see Kenta Maeda against Tyler Glasnow in this game. I give the edge to Glasnow and the Rays. They have the experience. I know the Twins do too, but they have that ghost of the long playoff drought. And no, I don't think it'll come to an end this season. Nick Anderson will be back by then for the Rays. Maybe Wander Franco. will be back as well. So I think that Tampa Bay will move on. And then I have the Nationals at the Padres. Max Scherzer against... Let's go with Yu Darvish. I think maybe they'll start Yu Darvish because of experience. But Max Scherzer is hard to bet against in the postseason. Yu Darvish has had some playoff chokes before. Game 7 against the Astros in 2017 with the Dodgers. And that wild card game when he was back on Texas against the Orioles back in 2012. So I'm going to say that the Nationals win the NL wild card game at Petco Park against the Padres. ALDS. Rematch from last year. You have the New York Yankees against the Tampa Bay Rays. I think it'll be the other way around this time. Yankees in 5. Garrett Cole's the best pitcher in this series. Best player in the series is Aaron Judge. I think Aaron Judge is a good postseason player in terms of big moments, but not necessarily statistics. So I think this will go the distance again. I'm going to say Yankees over Rays in 5. The White Sox and the Athletics, another playoff rematch from a year ago. 2-seeded White Sox, 3-seeded Athletics. Obviously, if the Yankees as the 1 and the Rays as the wild card. This is where I think this is a bit of a mismatch here. The White Sox, to me, are way better than the Athletics. They'll be healthy by then. They'll have Michael Kopech back in the fold by then. Maybe Eloy Jimenez will be back by then. White Sox over the Athletics in a sweep. The NLDS, 1-seeded Dodgers against the wildcard Nationals. So a rematch from the infamous 5-game series from 2 years ago in which the Dodgers had the big lead in Game 5. Clayton Kershaw blows it. Nationals come back and win it, as we know. But I think that it'll be reversed this time. I'm going to say the Dodgers in 5 as the Nationals' magical season will come to an end. So Dodgers in 5 over the Nationals. And then you have the 2-seeded Braves against the 3-seeded Cardinals in the NLDS. 2 really good teams. I think the Cardinals will be better by postseason time because I think they have the assets to make a trade. The Braves will also be better because I think that they'll have a better bullpen due to some trades. I think the Braves are better than the Cardinals. They're just deeper everywhere, so I'm going to go Braves in 4 over the St. Louis Cardinals. The ALCS, you have the 1-seeded Yankees against the 2-seeded White Sox. 2 fantastic teams, the 2 best teams in the league this year. I think we're destined for White Sox-Yankees. Stars abound with Aaron Judge, DJ LeMayo, Carlos Stanton, Eloy Jimenez, Leon Mercado, Luis Robert, Jose Abreu, Gleyber Torres, you name it, stars everywhere. The pitching matchups are going to be insane. But to me, the series is decided in the rotation. I think the Nationals have the best depth in terms of National League teams potentially. And that's why I think they can beat the Dodgers, but I don't think they will because the Dodgers just have more depth offensively and revenge on their minds, even though they just won the World Series. But I think that National Series, for some people, including Clayton Kershaw, will still sting. But that's the NLDS. But the ALCS, the White Sox have the better pitching depth in their rotation. I think that's the difference here. Michael Kopech will be great by then. Lance Lynn's had postseason experience with the Cardinals. Dallas Keuchel's had it with the Astros, and he's had some success against the Yankees. So I'm going to go White Sox over the Yankees in 6 games as another great, or looks like great on paper, Yankees season comes to an end, and there will be speculation about Aaron Boone's job. The NLCS. You have the 1-seeded Dodgers against the 2-seeded Braves, 2 great teams in the National League. The best 2 teams in the National League, in my opinion. Deep rosters abound. Star power abound with Mookie Betts, Cody Bellinger, Ronald Acuna, Freddie Freeman. Big-time rotations as well. To me, the difference in this series is the Braves' bullpen. I think it's just better than the Dodgers' bullpen. Kenley Jansen feels like he has meltdowns all the time, but For whatever reason, he didn't last year, and that's a big reason why the Dodgers beat the Rays last year in the World Series. But I'm not banking on Kenley Jansen to be great again, and I'm banking on the Braves bullpen to be great, unlike in the NLCS against the Dodgers last year. So I'm going to go Braves over the Dodgers in a rematch series, a revenge series, Braves in 7 over the Los Angeles Dodgers. And the World Series, the battle of 2 seeds in their respective leagues, the American League of the Chicago White Sox, the National League, the Atlanta Braves, 2 very good teams. I think Fox would like this matchup because there's some star power. You have the big market in the White Sox, obviously. Not a big market with the Braves, but they have some talent, as we know. A lot of recognizable names, like I talked about earlier with Freddie Freeman and Ronald Acuna Jr. And then on the other side in Chicago, you got Luis Robert, Eloy Jimenez, Jose Abreu, Yohan Moncada. 2 deep rotations. 2 very good bullpens. But to me, this comes down to the depth of the Atlanta pitching staff. I think that their experience from last year will help them. I think that their young studs in Mike Soroka, Ian Anderson, and Max Fried will all come through. And the experience of Charlie Morton being in big games with both the Rays last year and then the Astros in 2 of those last 3 seasons. Or wait, no, he wasn't on that Astros team that cheated. Or he was on the cheating team in 2017. He has that experience. But he was not on the 2019 team. He was on the Rays last year. So he was in 2 of the last 4 World Series. He'll help them. So the Atlanta Braves are my pick to be your 2021 World Series champions. And I have the Braves over the White Sox in 7 games. World Series MVP, Freddie Freeman, as the bonus pick. All right. Individual awards. American League MVP, David John LeMahieu, New York Yankees. DJ LeMahieu, there I said it. A surprise prediction for American League MVP. He was a candidate for this award the last 2 seasons. He's been the Yankees' best position player the last couple years from a hitting standpoint. I think he'll be the best hitter yet again this year. The Yankees will have the best record in the American League yet again. I think DJ LeMahieu will have like a 340, 25 homer, 110 RBI type of season. He'll take advantage of that short portion right in Yankee Stadium. The fans will love him. He's back on that big deal. There's going to be no distractions. So there's your pick for American League MVP. Cy Young, I'm going to go with another Yankee, Garrett Cole. This is the chalk pick, I know, but he's the best pitcher in baseball. Hard to bet against him. Rookie of the Year. It'll be a Ray, but it won't be Randy Arozarena. It'll be Wander Franco. I love Wander Franco. I think he'll change their offense. He'll give them a new look. He can hit for power. He can run. He can hit for average as well. Manager of the Year, Bob Melvin, Oakland Athletics. Bob Melvin is a fantastic manager. He gets a lot out of his teams every single year. Comeback Player of the Year, Jamison Taillon, New York Yankees. He's going to emerge as their number 2 starter this year. And I think that he'll revert back to his Pittsburgh days and potentially be better. National League MVP. This was my pick from last year, but COVID ruined his season and his team's season too, arguably, and some injuries as well. And I'm going to go with Juan Soto. Well, COVID really didn't ruin his year, but it did in a way, because if he didn't have COVID, maybe he would have won the award. But his team wasn't good either. But I think his team's going to be good with the additions of Schwarber and Belly, his protection net lineup now. I think he could have a 40-homer season. So, give me Juan Soto for the National League MVP. National League Cy Young, Jacob deGrom, best pitcher in the National League, bar none. Can't convince me otherwise. Rookie of the Year, Ian Anderson, Atlanta Braves. He was great for them in the postseason last year. And I think he'll provide great innings for the Braves again this year. Manager of the Year, Davey Martinez, Washington Nationals. I think that people are down on the Nationals, and Dave Martinez gets a little bit of a bad rap. Disappointing year last year, but won it all 2 years ago. But I think that Martinez will get his team to the postseason, and he'll get the credit for it. Comeback Player of the Year, Steven Strasburg. This was too easy. He's going to be awesome for Washington as their number 2 starter, helping that team as a bounce-back season as a whole. My ballots for every award. American League MVP ballot. DJ LeMahieu, Luis Robert, Mike Trout, Matt Chapman, Bo Bichette, Aaron Judge, Matt Olson, Yoan Moncada, Shohei Ohtani, George Springer. American League Cy Young ballot. Garrett Cole, Shane Bieber, Lucas Giolito, Sean Manaea, Tyler Glasnow, Lance Lynn, Kenta Maeda, Shohei Ohtani, Jesus Luzardo, Jameson Taillon. American League Rookie of the Year ballot. Wander Franco, Michael Kopech, Jared Kelenic, Tristan McKenzie, Davey Garcia, Bobby Dablick, AJ Puke, Randy Arozarena, Nate Pearson, and Alex Kirilloff. American League Manager of the Year. Bob Melvin, Kevin Cash, Tony La Russa, Aaron Boone, Mike Matheny. I had Mike Matheny on there because I think that they'll be 70-plus wins, and that team could exceed expectations early on. The Mariano Rivera Award winner, I think, will be Liam Hendricks. Second place, Aroldis Chapman. Third place, Trevor Rosenthal. AL Comeback Player of the Year. Jameson Taillon, Michael Wacha, Trey Mancini, Mike Foltynewicz, James Paxton. NL MVP ballot. The top 10. Juan Soto, Fernando Tatis Jr., Francisco Lindor, Mookie Betts, Cody Bellinger, Freddie Freeman, Ronald Acuna, Christian Yelich, Nolan Arenado, Ketel Marte. NL Cy Young ballot. Jacob deGrom, Max Scherzer, Walker Buehler, Max Fried, Jack Flaherty, Steven Strasburg, Aaron Nola, Blake Snell, Yu Darvish, Trevor Bauer. National League Rookie of the Year ballot. Ian Anderson, Brian Hayes, Sixto Sanchez, Luis Campusano, Dylan Carlson, Christian Pache, Joey Bart, Josiah Gray, Jazz Chisholm, Tyler Stevenson. National League Manager of the Year. Dave Martinez, Jace Tingler, Brian Snitker, Dave Roberts, Mike Schilt. National League Reliever of the Year, which is the Trevor Hoffman Award. I'm having win this award Devin Williams, Milwaukee Brewers. I know it's a bold call, but part of the reason you'll notice in my bold prediction segment. And then Hector Neris, Philadelphia Phillies, Brad Hand, Washington Nationals as your top 3. National League Comeback Player of the Year. Steven Strasburg, David Price, Lorenzo Cain, Noah Syndergaard, Madison Bumgarner. Best rookies for every team. Arizona, Geraldo Perdomo. Atlanta, Ian Anderson. Baltimore, Ryan Mountcastle. Boston, Jeter Downs. Chicago Cubs, Adbert Alzolay. Chicago White Sox, Tyler Stevenson. Michael Kopech. Cincinnati, Tyler Stevenson. What was I doing there? Cleveland, Tristan McKenzie. Colorado, Colton Welker. Detroit, Casey Mize. Houston, Brian Abreu. Kansas City, Daniel Lynch. Angels, Brandon Marsh. Dodgers, Josiah Gray. Miami, Sixto Sanchez. Milwaukee, Ethan Small. Minnesota, Alex Kirilloff. Mets, Khalil Lee. Yankees, Davey Garcia. Oakland, AJ Puke. Philadelphia, Spencer Howard. Philadelphia, Spencer Howard. Pittsburgh, Brian Hayes. St. Louis, Dylan Carlson. San Diego, Luis Campusano. San Francisco, Joey Bart. Seattle, Jarred Kelenic. Tampa Bay, Wander Franco. Texas, Josh Jung. Toronto, Nate Pearson. And Washington, Matt Cronin. Next up, the non-rookie breakout players. Arizona, Dalton Varsho. Atlanta, Austin Riley. Baltimore, Hunter Harvey. Boston, Michael Chavis. Cubs, Nico Horner. White Sox, Dylan Cease. Cincinnati, Tyler Mahle. Cleveland, Zach Plesac. Colorado, Brendan Rodgers. Detroit, Jacoby Jones. Houston, Kyle Tucker. KC, Brady Singer. Angels, Joe Adell. Dodgers, Gavin Lux. Miami, Pablo Lopez. Milwaukee, Keston Hiura. Minnesota, Randy Dobnak. Mets, Jordan Yamamoto. Yankees, Clint Frazier. Oakland, Jesus Luzardo. Philadelphia, Alec Bohm. Pittsburgh, Adam Frazier. St. Louis, Alex Reyes. San Diego, Trent Grisham. San Francisco, Mauricio Dubon. Seattle, Justin Dunn. Tampa Bay, Brandon Lau. Texas, Nick Solak. Toronto, Bo Bichette. Washington, Victor Robles. Flop players for every team. Players I think will be disappointing. Arizona, Nick Ahmed. Atlanta, Travis d'Arnaud. Baltimore, Felix Hernandez. Boston, Martin Perez. Cubs, Jason Hayward. White Sox, Adam Eaton. Cincinnati, Tucker Barnhart. Cleveland, Andres Jimenez. Colorado, Austin Gomber. Detroit, Renato Nunez. Houston, Zach Greinke. KC, Carlos Santana. Angels, Justin Upton. Dodgers, Kenley Jansen. Miami, Jesus Aguilar. Milwaukee, Jackie Bradley Jr. Minnesota, Andrelton Simmons. Mets, Carlos Carrasco. Yankees, Corey Kluber. Oakland, Jed Lowry. Philadelphia, Matt Moore. Pittsburgh, Jacob Stallings. St. Louis, Miles Mikolas. San Diego, Joe Musgrove. San Francisco, Tommy La Stella. Seattle, Tom Murphy. Tampa Bay, Randy Arozarena. Texas, Kyle Gibson. Toronto, Robbie Gray. Washington, Starlin Castro. Make or break players. Players who I think are facing make or break seasons for their respective teams. Arizona, Luke Weaver. Atlanta, Dansby Swanson. Baltimore, Matt Harvey. Boston, Hunter Renfroe. Cubs, Craig Kimbrell. White Sox, Carlos Rondon. Cincinnati, Jesse Winker. Cleveland, Ahmed Rosario. Colorado, John Gray. Detroit, Jeimer Candelario. Houston, Ryan Stanek. Royals, Adalberto Mondesi. Angels, Jose Quintana. Dodgers, Chris Taylor. Miami, Lewis Brinson. Milwaukee, Orlando Arcia. Minnesota, Byron Buxton. Mets, Edwin Diaz. Yankees, Gary Sanchez. Oakland, Chad Pinder. Philadelphia, Scott Kingery. Pittsburgh, Mitch Keller. St. Louis, Tyler O'Neill. San Diego, Chris Paddock. San Francisco, Aaron Sanchez. Seattle, Justice Sheffield. Tampa Bay, Chris Archer. Texas, Chris Davis. Toronto, Steven Matz. Washington, Eric Feed. Bounce back players. Players who I think will bounce back after disappointing seasons from a year ago. Arizona, Madison Bumgarner. Atlanta, Charlie Morton. Baltimore. Well, this should be not just bounce back players, but comeback players as well. Players that are not only bouncing back from disappointing years, but bouncing back from injury or off-field issues. So my pick for the Orioles is Trey Mancini. Boston, JD Martinez. Cubs, Chris Bryant. White Sox, Yoan Moncada. Cincinnati, Joey Votto. Cleveland, Franmil Reyes. Colorado, Kyle Freeland. Detroit, Matt Boyd. Houston, Yordan Alvarez. Kansas City, Hunter Dozier. Angels, Shohei Ohtani. Dodgers, Cody Bellinger. Miami, Jorge Alfaro. Milwaukee, Christian Yelich. Minnesota, Jose Barrios. Mets, Peter Alonso. Yankees, Gleyber Torres. Oakland, Matt Chapman. Philadelphia, Hector Neris. I think he'll be a huge bounce-back guy this year. Pittsburgh, Gregory Polanco. St. Louis, Matt Carpenter. San Diego, Emilio Pagan. San Francisco, Buster Posey. Seattle, Mitch Haniger. Tampa Bay, Austin Meadows. Texas, David Dahl. Toronto, Ross Stripling. And the Nationals, this one's obvious, Steven Strasburg. Alrighty. Next up, the All-Star teams. I like predicting this. I didn't do this last year or the year before. Obviously, last year we didn't have an All-Star game, but the year before I didn't do it. But I know I did this a couple years ago. It's like 3 years ago. All right, your starting players in the All-Star game in the American League. Catcher, Gary Sanchez. First base, Jose Abreu. Second base, DJ LeMahieu. Shortstop, Bo Bichette. Third base, Matt Chapman. Outfield, Mike Trout, Luis Robert, Aaron Judge. DH, JD Martinez. The bench, Yasmani Grandal, Matt Olson, Jose Altuve, Tim Anderson, Alex Bregman, Ramon Laureano, Michael Brantley, Jorge Soler, Shohei Ohtani, Vlad Guerrero Jr., Kyle Seager, Max Kepler. Your starting pitcher in the All-Star game will be Garrett Cole. The rest of those starters, Shane Bieber, Zach Plesac, Tyler Glasnow, Sean Manaea, Lucas Giolito, and Matt Boyd. Relievers, James Karinchak, Liam Hendricks, Hunter Harvey, Alex Colom, Aroldis Chapman. National League starting players. At catcher, JT Realmuto. First base, Freddie Freeman. Second place, Jeff McNeil. Shortstop, Fernando Tatis Jr. Third base, Nolan Arenado. Outfield, Juan Soto, Cody Bellinger, Mookie Betts. The bench. Will Smith, Paul Goldschmidt, Keston Hiura, Francisco Lindor, Manny Machado, Ronald Acuna Jr., Christian Yelich, Bryce Harper, Trevor Story, who I think will end up starting the game as a DH, Brian Hayes, Ketel Marte, Mike Yastrzemski, Anthony Rizzo. Your starting pitcher for the National League will be Jacob deGrom. The rest of the starters will be Max Scherzer, Walker Buehler, Clayton Kershaw, Dinelson Lamet, Ian Anderson, and Sixto Sanchez. And relievers, Josh Hader, Amir Garrett, Brad Hand, Drew Pomeranz, and Will Smith. And no, I don't have Devin Williams on there. I think he'll be snubbed, or maybe he'll be an injury replacement for somebody. And it's funny, I have both Will Smiths in the All-Star game, the reliever of the Braves and the catcher of the Dodgers. And last but not least, bold predictions. I'm going to go by teams in alphabetical order, as I've been doing this entire podcast, in terms of the non-standings and awards predictions, but for the superlatives and stuff. So, bold predictions for every team. The Diamondbacks. Ketel Marte will have a 30-30 season, 30 homers, 30 stolen bases. Atlanta Braves. For the second year in a row, Freddie Freeman will have a better season than Ronald Acuna Jr. I think both guys will be MVP players in terms of their level of play, but I think Freeman will be slightly better. The Baltimore Orioles. Dean Kremer will emerge as their ace for the season and will have an ERA lower than 4. Or I should say co-ace to John Means. Unless they trade Means. The Boston Red Sox. Jeter Downs will be in the big leagues after the All-Star break. I'm going to say that whether they maybe potentially trade Bogarts or one of their infielders, maybe Devers or somebody like that. But I think that Downs could come up. Maybe Bobby Dablick or Michael Chavez struggles and Downs comes up. But I think Jeter Downs will have a role on this team this season. The Chicago Cubs, I think that they will continue to break up that core. I think a ton of their big names will continue to get moved, including one that I have in this predictions list. You have to wait and find out. The Chicago White Sox, Michael Kopech will have a better ERA than Lance Lynn and or Dallas Keuchel. I love Michael Kopech. He's a star. And I think that Dallas Keuchel and Lance Lynn are on the latter halves of their careers. Although they're still good, and I still think they'll be good this year, but I just think Michael Kopech will be better. The Cincinnati Reds will trade Nicholas Castellanos to the Oakland Athletics for Robert Puason, James Kaprielian, and Cody Thomas. Oakland needs help in the outfield. Castellanos will help them. He'll go right in left field, and Mark Canha will be back to a utility player. And I think that Castellanos could DH for them as well, as Cincinnati continues to blow up the roster. The Cleveland Indians young stud Tristan McKenzie will have 15-plus wins. I think that he'll be awesome in his first full season. The Colorado Rockies, Bud Black will be the first manager fired. That team's just terrible. The Detroit Tigers, Casey Mize will establish himself as the ace of the staff. He was the number 1 overall pick in the draft a couple years ago for a reason. The Houston Astros will acquire Starling Marte from the Miami Marlins for Colin Barber, Jajance Torres, and Blair Henley. I think that Marte goes there as a rental, or they sign him there long term, as the Marlins will get something for the veteran in the contract year. The Kansas City Royals, Brady Singer will have an ERA under 3.5. I love Brady Singer. I think he's going to be a good pitcher in the big leagues for a long time. Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, Shohei Ohtani will have 15 wins and over 25 home runs. I think he'll have his best season yet and will remind people why he was the Rookie of the Year a couple of years ago. The Los Angeles Dodgers, Gavin Lux will establish himself as the everyday second baseman. He did not have the chance to do so a year ago, and I think he will this year. Miami Marlins, Sixto Sanchez will have an ERA under 3 and will have the best season by a starter for this franchise since the late Jose Fernandez. The Milwaukee Brewers trade Josh Hader to the New York Yankees for Clark Schmidt, Luis Medina, Josh Breaux, and Ryder Green. The Yankees have some injuries in their bullpen that could linger on to the summer. Maybe their bullpen underachieves a little bit. Maybe Chad Green gets worn out. I could see them going after Hader. I see he could be their 8th inning guy behind Aroldis Chapman, or even their 7th inning guy behind Zach Britton and Aroldis Chapman, wherever way you want to go. I think that Hader would be a great fit in New York, and I think he could thrive here. The Minnesota Twins will acquire Zach Gallen from the Arizona Diamondbacks for Jordan Blazovic, Brent Rooker, Jose Miranda, and Luis Rojo. I think the Diamondbacks could be open for business potentially, and I think Gallen would be a good young starter to go for Minnesota. The New York Mets will miss the playoffs, but they'll extend Francisco Lindor. There's a lot of drama right now with that extension. I think that eventually gets done. I think that can haunt them this season. It could be a distraction for them. They have pitchers injured, which is another big reason why I don't have them in the postseason and have the Nationals in instead. And I think that Luis Rojas, there'll be rumors about his job security, but ultimately they'll retain him. The New York Yankees, as I mentioned earlier, they'll have the MVP in the American League, but it's not Aaron Judge, it's DJ LeMahieu. Number 20, the Oakland Athletics. Sean Manaea will throw his second career no-hitter. There's some weak offenses in the American League West. Maybe he'll do it against the Rangers. I could see him doing it against the Rangers. I could see him doing it against another opponent as well. I think they play the NL West this year. So if so, maybe it'll be against the Rockies. If they play I know they don't play the NL East. I know the AL East plays the NL East. If they play the NL West, maybe it could be the Rockies. If they play the NL Central, maybe it could be the Pirates. And it could very well be the Rangers. It could very well be an American League opponent. It could be the Tigers. But it's going to be somebody. Maybe it's the Orioles. So we'll see who it'll be against. The Philadelphia Phillies will have another dismal season, and there will be rumors about Joe Girardi's job security, but ultimately the Phillies will keep him. I think there could be injuries. They could be hit with some COVID stuff. And obviously the Philly media, a bunch of strict people. So they're going to be Girardi hot seat rumors, but ultimately the wild card in this is that Dave Dombrowski's not the guy who hired Joe Girardi. So that's why I could see those rumors popping up, but ultimately Girardi sticks around. Pittsburgh Pirates will have a better record than the 2013 Tigers and the 2013 Astros. Or I should say the 2003 Tigers. There's people saying that they're going to be worse than that Tigers team and worse than that Astros team. I don't think they're going to be as bad as those teams. I think that their division is bad as a whole. So I think they could pick off the Cubs. They could pick off the Brewers. They could pick off the Reds a couple times. And even the Cardinals on the right day. They can get wins against the Rockies and the Giants potentially. And if the Marlins trade guys, maybe they can get wins against them as well. So I'm going to say they just get under 60 wins, like 57 wins for the Pirates. They'll be better from a win standpoint than we expect. But they'll still be really, really bad. The St. Louis Cardinals will acquire Charlie Blackmon from the Colorado Rockies for John Torres, Malcolm Nunez, and Levi Prater. Second time this year where the Cardinals will make a trade with the Rockies for a star. I think he'll upgrade their outfield situation a lot. He could fit with them in center or in right. He's better than Harrison Bader. He's better than what they have currently in their outfield. And he can flat out hit. San Diego, Chris Paddock will have a better season than Joe Musgrove. I'm not a Joe Musgrove fan. He had moments on Pittsburgh, but expectations are high. They gave up a lot for him. And Chris Paddock, to me, has potential. So I think that Paddock will have a better year than Musgrove, and Paddock will be their fourth best starter, maybe even their third best starter, depending on some injuries and whatnot. And Musgrove, to me, will be their number 5. But not terrible, but he could be like Chris Paddock last year, like a disappointment. That's what I'm trying to say. Mike Yastrzemski will have 30-plus home runs. I love Mike Yastrzemski. He's a star. He'll be an all-star for the Giants. And that name, Yastrzemski, just is special. The Seattle Mariners, Jarred Kelenic over 15 home runs. I love Jarred Kelenic. He'll continue to haunt the Mets with dealing for Robinson Cano, who's suspended this year, and closer Edwin Diaz, who's been terrible as a Met. So Jarred Kelenic will be a Rookie of the Year candidate. Won't win it, but will come close. The Rookie of the Year will be with the Tampa Bay Rays, but it won't be Randy Arozarena. It'll be Wander Franco. I think that Franco's a star, and he will be better than Randy Arozarena. Randy Arozarena, I think, takes a step back. I think he'll be a disappointment this year relative to what we saw in the postseason last year. And I think that Wander Franco could be the young Ray that can improve their offense this season. The Rangers, Nick Solak. Great spring training translates. I love Nick Solak. I think he's a really, really good young player. I think they stole him in that trade with the Rays. I think this could be a regret by the Rays. I think that he is somebody that can make the All-Star team. I believe that he will actually. I didn't even have him on my list. I'm actually going to put him as another wild card, and I think that I'm going to say that I'm going to predict that Vlad Guerrero Jr. is an injury replacement for somebody. I think somebody gets hurt. Maybe it's Shohei or something like that. Maybe, let's just say somebody gets COVID or somebody gets hurt, and Vlad Guerrero Jr. is a replacement guy, and I think Nick Solak ends up making it by default. Speaking of the All-Star game, my bold prediction for the Toronto Blue Jays is that Bo Bichette will be your starting shortstop in the All-Star game. Many people will probably predict Gleyber Torres for this, or Tim Anderson. But no, I think it's going to be Bo Bichette. I love Bo Bichette. He's a star, and I think he'll be the All-Star on the Blue Jays, and he'll start at shortstop for them. And last but not least, the Washington Nationals. Here's a big one. They will acquire Chris Bryant from the Chicago Cubs for Carter Kieboom, Cole Henry, Mason Denneberg, and Fernando Pena. I think that's a great package for Chicago. Carter Kieboom, change of scenery guy potentially, and Bryant brings a whole different dimension to the Cubs. He not just can play third base, he can play in the outfield as well if they need that, double switch. So, he is amazing, and I think he'd be a great fit with Josh Bell and Juan Soto in that lineup, and he's reunited with his former teammate, Kyle Schwarber, and you also have Trey Turner in that lineup as well. And this trade prediction is a big reason why I have them in the postseason this year as well. I think they'll trade for somebody, whether it's Chris Bryant or maybe it's Contreras of the Cubs. It's going to be somebody I think that the Nationals can pull the trigger on. Maybe it's Charlie Blackmon for what we know. It's going to be somebody good. And I'm going to say that that somebody good is Chris Bryant. Some miscellaneous predictions before we go. I think that the Major League Baseball season will complete its 162-game season with no big COVID outbreaks with teams. Let's just knock on wood here that this Nationals COVID thing goes away and they don't have to postpone or cancel games. I'm going to say that there's some games postponed, but every team will play its 162 games. That's the key to this prediction. I'm going to say that the only manager fired in season will be Colorado's Bud Black, as I alluded to that earlier. Breaking news right now, Francisco Lindor and the Mets have the contract extension. We'll talk about that on the main show tomorrow. So, so much for that potential distraction for the Mets. I'm going to say that there are going to be multiple big-name players suspended for PEDs. We see it every single season in Major League Baseball, and I think that we could very well see it again. And not only do I think that every team will play 162, I think that every team will have fans in the stands in some capacity this season. I think that over half the league will have full crowds potentially. And I think that for the playoffs, all the playoff teams will have full capacity crowds. And one more prediction for you. I'm going to say that there will be an unexpected player traded that we don't see coming. I don't know who that is. It's somebody that we're not thinking of right now. It could be a player on a team that requests a trade randomly. They pull an NBA. It could be a team that ends up being a disappointment that ends up that we think is good. That's in a contract year maybe, like a Carlos Correa. So I think there's going to be somebody unexpected traded, whether that's Carlos Correa. I think that's the most likely candidate for this. There's some other ones as well. So yeah, there you have it, the 2021 MLB Seasons Predictions Podcast. And I hope you guys enjoy the season, everybody.